you can hear it. And I also go by Melany. I am a hybrid, after all. Before I get into hypnosis, I just want to get a feel for the room and see how many of you have had experience with it before. Whoa! Okay, so you've all had experience with hypnosis before. You've all experienced it before. And how many of you think you could never be hypnotized? We got a few of those. That's pretty common. My husband used to think that too, and then I tried hypnosis on him, and now he's doing the dishes every single night. I'm joking. Even the greatest hypnotist in the world couldn't make my husband do the dishes against his will. It just doesn't work that way. There are actually a lot of misconceptions about what hypnosis is and how it works. A lot of people still think that it's a form of mind control where the hypnotist does something to you or makes you do something against your will. That just isn't true. Hypnosis is simply a state of heightened focus and concentration. So it's not voodoo, it's not magic, it's something that you and I have all experienced every single day. If you've ever been watching a TV show, maybe In Treatment or one of the other great shows we heard about, and you're really glued to the television set, and somebody calls you from the other room and tries to talk to you, and you totally block them out because you're really caught up in your show, that's hypnosis. Or if you're an athlete and you're really into the game, you're so into it, you're able to block everything out and just focus on the game and making that shot, that's a state of hypnosis. Or if you're driving down the freeway and you miss your exit because you're so caught up in your own daydream, that's highway hypnosis. So the only difference between those natural states of hypnosis and what I do in the clinical setting is that with clinical hypnosis, you're achieving that focused state on purpose. And the reason why you would want to achieve that state on purpose is because it can be a really useful way of achieving behavioral change. Now, there's a common misperception that only certain people can be hypnotized, that you have to be weak-minded or gullible or unintelligent. But hypnosis has nothing to do with intelligence. Research shows that 95% of people are susceptible to hypnosis to some degree. It's just a matter of degree. So 10 to 15% are extremely susceptible. And the way we know this is there's actually a standard test that scientists use to determine how hypnotizable someone is. It's called the Stanford Susceptibility Scales because it was developed at Stanford. And the test is basically consists of a series of 12 activities or tasks. If you perform well on the task, you get 1 point on the test. If you perform all 12 tasks, you get 12 points. And most people score in that 5 to 7 range. 95% of people get at least 1 point on the test. 5% of people are almost impossible to work with. And then the 10 to 50% that are really susceptible, I recognize them pretty well because they come into my office and they actually perceive changes in perception. They start to hear things differently, feel things, they're almost hallucinating. Some of them have their eyes rolling back to in the back of their heads, and it's pretty amazing. And those people tend to get a really good result with hypnotherapy. So if we have time at the end, I'll do some of the tests with you so that you can see where you might fall along the scale. But probably the best question that you could ask yourself if you want to know where do I fall along this spectrum is how good are you at becoming really absorbed in fantasy or imagery? Are you the kind of person who can block everything out and just read a book and not even know what else is going on? If you are, you're probably going to do really well with hypnosis. So a lot of people want to know, well, how does it work and how can it help me create behavioral change? And I can give you a really long scientific explanation of what's happening in the brain, but I don't really have time for that right now. So I'll give you the simpler explanation. Your mind is basically like a computer. If you think of it like a computer, you have your conscious mind, which is the computer's processing system. And that's the part of the brain that's responsible for processing information and data. It's the number cruncher. It's the conscious, logical part of your mind. It's what got you to come here today to BINA and sign up. You made that decision consciously. You were aware of that decision, right? And that part of your brain, that conscious part of the mind, makes up 12% of your total brain capacity. Then the remaining 88%, which is obviously the larger piece of the pie, is your subconscious. And the subconscious is kind of like your computer's hard drive. So it's a storehouse of information. Everything from the time you were a little child, all of your behaviors, everything you do on autopilot, all your memories, your habits, your beliefs, that's all stored in the subconscious. And when something gets stored in that hard drive, it can become very difficult to change later on, at least on a conscious level. So for instance, let's say when you were a little kid, like me, you developed a really strong association between certain kinds of food, like chocolate cake, and pleasure and comfort. Who doesn't like chocolate cake? And later on in life, you want to change that association with your conscious mind. So you tell yourself, you know, having that second or third piece of chocolate cake just is not going to make me feel better. You know, I want to start slimming down, I want to look svelte, whatever, and I shouldn't have that second piece. And then you find yourself scarfing it down anyway. That's when your subconscious mind is getting in the way. It reverts back to old behaviors because that's just what's comfortable. So hypnosis is a way to access the subconscious so that you can change some of the old programming and start to get the results that you want. So what are the kinds of things that hypnosis can help with? Hypnosis can help with, has helped with everything from smoking cessation, test anxiety, weight loss, insomnia, pain control, stage fright. This is just a condensed list. It goes on and on. I think there's actually someone in the audience who's a hypnobirthing specialist. Is she here? So, okay, you've seen it. So it can be used for a lot of different things, and of course, if you're interested in learning more about hypnosis or trying it as a treatment, I suggest finding a hypnotherapist that can really educate you on how susceptible are you going to be to hypnosis, that can help you do some of those tests. So I don't know if we have time for it because you're not giving me any cards. Should we do some of the tests? Yes. Okay. I'll just give a brief one. So just kind of settle down in your seats, let the seat do the work for you, just relax. Imagine that you're kind of melting into your seat and you're allowing that relaxation to travel down from your head, down to your forehead, your scalp, your shoulders. Allow it to come down through your chest and all the way down to your butt, and from your butt all the way down to your feet. And just ignore that. And when you're really relaxed, the hypnotist would then ask you to, and this is just one of the examples, go ahead and put both of your arms out. You can close your eyes, that helps a little bit, you don't have to, but. And imagine that in your right hand, there's a really, really heavy weight, like the kind you would hold up at the gym. I don't know how much you guys are lifting right now, but maybe a 20-pound weight. And imagine that that weight starts to feel heavier and heavier in the right hand, and heavier and heavier. And you really start to feel that in your muscle, that strain on your muscle. And then imagine that I add another 5 pounds and it gets even heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. Just imagine that. Visualize, imagine, pretend that it starts to really feel heavy. And now there's 30 pounds in your right hand and it really starts to feel heavy now. And it's heavier and heavier. The harder you try, the more difficult it becomes to lift up that hand as it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Good. Okay, you guys can relax now. Put your hands down. How many of you felt a little bit of sagging in your right hand? Okay, good. So you'd probably get 1 point for that. So and then all the other exercises are similar, where they get progressively more involved. And that's basically it. It's testing your ability to become so involved in imagery that you actually start to experience the changes in your body. And so I've thrown a lot of information at you, and if you remember anything tonight, I hope that you remember this. Hypnosis is a state of heightened focus and concentration. That's it. That's all it is.